Have you started?
Now I have.
So, welcome, viewers. As I was putting this together, I started off in Yom Teruah, went through Yom Kippur, and now we finished up Sukkot last night, and now it's like, what does the eighth day represent? What does it mean? All right. So this is what this is going to dominate what I want to get across this time, and so the eighth day. I'll say a word of prayer here in just a minute, but the eighth day is found in Leviticus 23. So while I'm talking, if you want to turn to Leviticus 23, it's one of the celebrations that is least written about. There's not too much understanding about this, for a good reason. So, as Mr. Lockwood said last night, or was it today or whatever, the portion of what I'm going to be speaking to you is going to be theory. Meaning a theory is unprovable, and then when it becomes provable, then it's a fact. Okay? So, I've been, trying to understand, number one, the end of days. Number two, how do we get into it? What happens? How do we, acquire and get into the kingdom? And then what happens at the very end? And then, as the eighth day represents, it's the ending of one time, one age, and the beginning of a new one. All right, so with that said, let me offer up with a word of prayer. Father, I give you praise and glory, and I again thank you for those that are here, and I thank you for this time that we have set apart, and I thank you for the message that you have placed upon me, and just helping me personally just have a little more understanding, and that I pray that you be with me as I share it, and just give me the words. And so I give you praise and glory in Yeshua's name. Amen. All right. Leviticus 23. If somebody is there, if you would read just verse 36. Nice and loud, please.
Can I?
So I can hear you.
7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. On the 8th day shall be a holy convocation to you. You shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. It is a solemn assembly. You shall do no regular work.
Okay. So again, we have this determination, this one paragraph basically, or this one sentence. So it's a part of the way it starts off, it's a part of the Moedims, or the appointed times. The eighth day is not a part of Sukkot. I want to make that clear, because when I came into this walk, I learned that the eighth day was a part of Sukkot. It's called Shemini Atzeret. Now, Shemini is the number, it's Hebrew, it's the number 8, all right? Now, Atzeret, does anybody know in the Hebrew what Atzeret means? Huh? I gotta hear you.
Earth.
Earth? That's Eretz. This is Atzeret. Atzeret. This will be interesting. It should be. It means assembly, in the simpleness, assembly or to pause. Assembly or to pause. Now, I as I thought about this, I said, we need an application. So the application I give to it is having very little desire to move forward. Being comfortable in where you're at, because moving forward means you're doing something new, something unknown, and it's like, no, I want to stay back here. All right? Because that's what the eighth day is. You're coming out of one and you're going into another. All right? Now, the feast days, I'm not gonna go into any great detail this time, but the feast days represent a cycle. All right? An annual cycle for the children of Israel that they were commanded to do, to keep, and to honor. And so now we've got, because we start off with, what's the first feast day?
Shabbat.
Shabbat. John and I used to like this because the guys that, when we visit them in the prison and they wanted to get, be counted among the Jewish brethren. And so in order for them to do that, the rabbi would come in and kind of drill them a little bit, and he'd always ask them, he says, what's the first feast day? And they'd always say, Passover. He says, no, you're out of here. Next guy comes in, same thing, no, you're out of here. So John and I would get in there and they'd complain that they don't recognize this. Well, why? So they told us. I said, it's because you don't know. You weren't raised this way, you weren't raised in this walk. And so you're going to give a standard application. So, because the rabbi wasn't going to tell them what it is. It's like, you go and figure it out. So John and I both kind of giggled when they told us, you guys, all you got to do is read your scripture. And so, the first feast day is Sabbath. That has to be established. All right, and I think we all understand that. The last day is the eighth day, Shemini Atzeret. They both stand alone, and they have, direct meanings. And so this is one of the things I really want to try to get across today. Is a fluid feast time, feast day. We have to kind of look at it and think about it that way. Again, it's the final Moedim or appointed time, but it comes at the time when Sukkot is over with. Or if I want to take it into the future, it's at the time when the millennial kingdom will come to its completeness after 1,000 years. All right. And so this is what's boggled me for many years. Then what? What happens after this? What takes place after this?
Start all over again.
Huh?
It started all over again.
Okay.
The cycle of the feast.
Yes, the cycle of the feast starts all over again. Thank you, John, because that is true. You did good. But not right away. Because in the cycle of the feast days, okay, this is the 23rd day of the 7th month. Now we're done. After, when the sun goes down, we're done. Then what do? We just sit down and, kind of twiddle your thumbs and whatever. No. The scripture is, look for the season. Look for the time when it was declared to Moses and Aaron, this is the beginning of your months. And he established with Moses and Aaron a particular time frame. Not saying, no, it's going to start directly on this day. No, he didn't say that. Because that is a floating type of day when that starts. When you determine the first day of the first month in the spring. All right.
And when did he tell that to Moshe and Aaron?
Moshe and Aaron, yes.
When?
This is the beginning.
Yeah, but when
And
did
it was
he-
springtime.
Yeah, but were they still in Egypt or
No, they were in Egypt, yes.
Egypt?
And see that when I get to the time when we declare the first day, that's when I'll explain all of that, all right? Because it makes a big difference that because they were in Egypt, they were not in the land of Canaan at that time. It's a huge difference in order to understand, especially the plagues and things that were going on. Okay. All right. So what now? What now? I firmly believe at the end of Sukkot, at the end of that 7th day, which we observed yesterday, that 7th day in my mind, in the vision I have, is when the word of Yahuwah,
They're coming right to the assembly.
hallelujah,
Is that a dream?
huh?
Is that a dream?
No, they're doing training exercises. That the word of Yahuwah will stand up and declare evening and morning the seventh day. Evening and morning the seventh day. And the reason I believe that is because it's never spoken. It was never spoken in Genesis.
Ah.
You go first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day. There's no at the end of the seventh day, evening and morning, the seventh day. So what that means is it's not complete yet. It's not done. It's not finished. But I want us to understand Yahuwah himself is still in his rest. He is still in his rest even today. This whole time. When he said evening and morning the sixth day, he went into his rest. He is still in that very rest. And let me give you a couple of scriptures. Before I do that, let me kind of just again. I want to kind of reinforce what I just said. So Isaiah 46, and we're gonna read a few scriptures. If you want to just write them down and listen, that's good. But Isaiah chapter 46, we're gonna be start in verse 8. And I don't need to turn there because I have it right here. So I'll wait for you to get there. Isaiah 46. I would say 99% of you have heard or read or know this verse. Or verses, let me put it that way. And Isaiah here is talking to the house of Judah and the house of Israel. At that time they were kingdoms, the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. And so here he goes, verse 1. Or verse 8 rather, starting in verse 8. Remember this, keep it in mind, take it to heart, you rebels. I like that's. Now remember the former things, those of long ago. I am Yahuwah, and there is no other. I am Yahuwah, and there is none like me. I make it known the end from the beginning. From ancient times, what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. Now, that's Isaiah is writing down what Yahuwah says to him. I make known the end from the beginning. Now, I think most of us have heard that. But do we really understand it? Okay. Before you have an end, you have to have a beginning. That's the way my mind thinks. It has to start somewhere. It doesn't end, and then you go through this whole cycle type of thing, and then it's, and then the beginning. But what he's declaring here is the end of one time is the beginning of a next time. The end of one time is the beginning of a next time. And that's what John brought up, and that's the way we operate even today. But I think it has greater things that it's talking about than just our yearly feast cycles. And that's what I'm presenting today. I think there's more to it than just that. Because the feast times, the way they're laid out, the way they're set out, the way the children of Israel are told to keep it, I don't believe he would have just given it to them just to see, well, are you going to keep the feast day? Are you going to keep the Sabbath? That might be part of it, but that's not the totality of it in my mind. There's something behind that. And I believe Yahuwah was giving the children of Israel a glimpse into the future. That's what I believe. There's part of my theory. All right. Verse 11, from the east I summon a bird of prey, from afar off the land a man to fulfill my purpose. What I have said, that I will bring about. What I have planned, that I will do. Very clear. We've talked about that this week. So listen to me, you stubborn-hearted, you who are now far from my righteousness. I'm bringing my righteousness near. It is not far away. My salvation or my deliverance will not be delayed. I will grant salvation to Zion, my splendor and glory to Israel. How many I's were in there? I will, I will, I will. You can count them up. There were a few. But this is one thing we've tried to stress this past week. Yahuwah is in control, and I'll say it again, he's got one plan and one plan only. He doesn't have a multitude of plans, and it's been that way from the beginning. That's what he's declaring here through Isaiah. It's been that way from the beginning. So, once again, the eighth day is a transition of what is ending and what is about to come into existence. All right. Yes, we've got another page of notes. And it's only been 20 minutes. So what might be next for the kingdom of Yahuwah? What might be next? You want to help me out? No? You want to help me out?
Rephrase the question.
Huh? It is a basic question. You want to help me out, Rachel? No? Come on.
Go help. Get up.
No, you're going to pass something out.
Get up.
Do what?
Get up.
I don't get the question.
They think you're gonna take, they're gonna take over your teaching.
Well,
and explain what
no.
you had. That's why you got all those
Pass 'em out.
volunteers.
I
You go in the
have
back.
one.
I'll get these up here. Well, go ahead.
I got it.
One guy says, I can.
If we have enough, I think I made 15 copies.
Thank you, sir.
Is this what is next?
This one we're talking about next. Why don't you go over here? You have enough here. Okay. You need more.
He asked you a question, he just simply asked you the question.
Now, what I just handed out, I'm not expecting everyone to have a clear understanding of what is in front of you. But you have heard me talk many, many times that Yahuwah
Coming.
has established patterns and cycles. And I firmly believe that, and I believe that I've been able to, from the scriptures, show you that. We talked about it even this morning. All right. Now, I want to, if you're in Isaiah, go to chapter 46. I want to read verse 10 again. Just to reinforce some things here, because I know some of you have gone on and read what I've got written on there. Again, I make known the end from the beginning, from the ancient times, what is still to come. So he's talking about future, what is still to come. And my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. All right. Now I want you to go to Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4. And as I mentioned to you, Sukkot represents entering into his rest. All right, entering into his rest. Oh, I should have a piece of paper there. Oh, no. Well, somebody's. I got too much stuff. All right. Hebrews chapter 4. Here we are. Found it. I'm going to read verse 1 through 3. And this is the writer of Hebrews saying, "Therefore, holy brethren, or set apart brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling." Again, the heavenly calling is into the kingdom. "Consider Yeshua, the apostle and high priest of our confession. He was faithful to him, to his Father, who appointed him, as Moses also was in his house." Meaning, Moses was a part of all of this that has taken place.
Did you say Hebrews 4?
You're not reading Hebrews 4.
Well, this is still pretty good.
No, you're.
No, I said chapter 4. Thank you. Somebody should have stopped me earlier. This is pretty good.
I was trying to figure out what you were reading. I even changed Bibles.
This is pretty good. I mess up also. It's my glasses, folks. I should have got my other glasses. All right, verse 1. Let's see if this reads about like the way yours does. "Therefore, let us fear lest while a promise remains of entering his rest." So what's the promise?
Entering his rest.
Huh?
Entering his rest.
But let's get a little bit broader understanding what the promise is.
The kingdom.
Okay, the kingdom.
Yeah,
And who did he start that with?
with the chosen ones.
Even before that. They were chosen, but even before what we talked about, who the chosen ones are. Anybody want to say Abraham?
I said it.
Rosemary
Yeah,
said
just above.
Abraham.
I said Abraham.
You gotta say it louder, please.
Abraham.
Katie's cheating.
Abraham, the promise. The promise that his descendants, or those that would come after him, would enter into the land that was promised, and they would live in peace. And that is a representation of the kingdom. But it says here, there still remains for them to enter into his rest. And if any one of you should seem to have come short of it, for indeed we have the good news preached to us. The good news is the kingdom is at hand, it's coming. Just as they also, but the word they heard did not profit them, because it was not united by faith in those who heard. I think John talked a little bit about that last night. Show me your works without faith, and what's going to happen? You will not enter. Show me your faith with works, and you become a part of the chosen. So verse 3, "For we who have believed enter that rest, just as he said." Now you find this in Psalms 95:11, or you can go back to chapter 3. It's in chapter 3 also, in greater length. "As I swore in my wrath, they will not enter my rest." They will not enter my rest. Now remember, I said earlier, Yahuwah is in his rest right now. And I don't have time to really go into some of the deeper details and what that all means. All he's saying here in verse 3, as it says in Psalms, and it goes back to when they were, testing Yahuwah, they didn't have faith. And so he had to deal with them in a strong way. That's what his wrath was about. Some of those he put to sleep, or he killed, or he put down, or he just says, you guys aren't going to make it. You're going to suffer for 39 and a half, 40 years. But you're not going to enter because you did not believe me. You're not going to enter. although his works were finished from the foundation of the world. Okay, that just, to me, that validates what I brought up earlier. He's in his rest, his work is finished. However, those that have been, coming onto the face of this earth, there still remains for them a time that they need to believe. And I think he goes into that later on. All right, is everybody sort of following what I'm saying? There are those who are part of the called ones. We were talking about this. There are those who are part of the called ones that are not going to enter into his rest. And the main reason is unbelief. Unbelief. All right. And again, there's nobody in this room that says, oh, you get to go in, you get to go in, you get to go in. No, you don't get to go in. No, you don't get to go in. That is all determined by the Father. By His Word, through His Word. It's all determined by the Father. And it's been that way, how long?
Forever.
From the foundation of the world. From the foundation of this earth. Now with that in mind, maybe what I passed out might start making a little sense. All right. I talked about this the other night. Matthew 25, and I'm just going to read verse 24. The separation of the sheep from the goats. Verse 34, chapter 25, Matthew. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom. Inherit the kingdom prepared when?
Since the creation of the foundation.
In the beginning, from the foundation of the world. So there's a couple of scriptures right there. There's a few more. But I think that's good. I've got one more. I want to do one more. I want you to, the next one I want you to go to is 1 Peter. So head on back. 1 Peter. We were in 1 Peter I think you were in 1 Peter last night, weren't you, John?
I was in 2 Peter.
2 Peter, that's right. You were in 2 Peter. 1 Peter chapter 1.
What verse?
I'm going to go down to verse 18 if you're already there. Chapter 1, 1 Peter, verse 18. Knowing that you were not redeemed with perishable things like silver or gold from your futile way of life inherited from your forefathers. However, with precious blood, as of a lamb, unblemished, spotless, like Mashiach. For he was foreknown from the foundation of the world. He was foreknown from the foundation of the world, but has appeared in these last times for the sake of you, who through him, through the word, through Yeshua, are believers of Yahuwah, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in Yahuwah. You kind of saw a puzzled look there from somebody. All right. For an understanding, the main thing here is from the foundation of the world. So, what Isaiah spoke about, he declares at the beginning, he declares from the end. So what took place at the end is going to roll over to the next time. Because it will be almost the same at the end. Can't say that for sure, that's just my thinking. But it's a cycle. It's a pattern. And the Father does what he wants to do. I don't think there's a single person in this room, and there might be, I don't know. I know I'm not one of them that can tell the Father what to do. I do not even want to even try to tell him what to do. I just need to understand in faith he's going to do it, but he's going to do what he's already done. Because he knows what he's going to do according to scriptures we just read from the beginning. That's what he's going to do. And I figure my main job is just to believe it, just to have faith in that. All right. So, we've been talking about, and some of you, this has been, several months that I've been bringing this up. We pretty well, I think most of us really understand. If you don't understand, just kind of raise your hand and maybe later we can talk about it. The scripture that he says, many are called, few are chosen. The chosen ones go into the kingdom. We looked up several of those scriptures during the week. The chosen ones are the ones that go into the kingdom. So what happens to the others? See, that's where my mind started to go, what happens with the others?
They're outside of the kingdom.
Huh?
They're outside of the kingdom.
But what about those that have already been on the earth and they've died and they've been put in the ground? What about those?
Second resurrection.
Okay, but not everybody understands that. Not everybody realizes that. That's what I'm getting to here. First we have to understand the chosen of Yahuwah go into the kingdom. Those are from times past. Those will be at recent times when it's time to set up the kingdom or the kingdom to come down and Yeshua to gather in, the word of Yahuwah to gather in these people throughout the generations. Not only from the time of Abraham, but even prior to that. And that's what, I think in part we've studied a little bit, what's that going to look like? And I don't, we really don't know exactly. Most of the information we are given from Moses all the way through the Gospels to Revelation is to lead us up to the kingdom. We're going to read a few scriptures here that tells us what's going to happen at the beginning of the kingdom and at the end of the kingdom. It's 1,000-year millennial reign. All right. Now, here's what I want to introduce to you. And this it's sort of a strong shift. But this is leading up to the kingdom. Those who worship the beast. Those who worship the beast. So we got to go to Revelation for that. Now I want to be in chapter 3. Let me make sure. Yes.
What?
No. 13. Revelation 13. Verse 8. That's going to be the main verse. But I want to start in I want to do verse 7 also. Okay, verse 7, chapter 3, Revelation. And to the messenger of the church of Philadelphia write, he who is holy, who is true, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, and who shuts and no one opens, this is what he says.
You're in chapter 3.
Yes.
Cause you said
You said
13.
I said 13.
Yeah.
This is still a good verse.
I'm lost.
Chapter 13.
I think I'm gonna be coming back to this. This is why Boy, I messed up twice already. I think it's kinda good. Chapter 13. Yeah.
You're just checking to see if anybody's actually listening.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm gonna go into verse 7 also. It was given to him, who's this, the beast, to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation was given to him. Okay, who gave him authority?
Yeah.
Exactly. And all who dwell on the earth will worship him. All who dwell on the earth, those are the flesh beings, all those who dwell on the earth will worship him, those whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who has been slain. Okay? That's kind of one of those tongue twisters. As I say, nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee. Those whose names have not been, or cannot be found, it's probably the better way to put it, cannot be found in the book of life, they will worship the beast. It's a pretty strong statement. They will worship the beast. And that's why verse 9, if anyone has an ear, let him hear. I mean, that's basically saying, if you have an ear, maybe you can understand this. But some people don't, they think they have an ear, but they don't understand it. If anyone is destined for captivity, to captivity he goes. If anyone kills with the sword he must be killed. However, here is the perseverance and the faith of the chosen. All right. The beast that's going to be at the time before the kingdom is set up. Those whose names are not in the book, they're going to worship him. And this is my thinking, it's going to be a fair amount of those that come out of the children of Israel. A fair amount of those that are called. That's just my thinking, okay? Now, there's a reversal to this. By what I mean is, it's going to talk about those who make it in. So go to Revelation 17. And again, I'm going to do 7 and 8. Seems to be a theme here. 7 and 8, that is a theme. End of Sukkot, new beginnings. Wow, just came to me. Wow. Verse 7, chapter 17. And the messenger said to me, why do you wonder? I shall tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Here we go. The beast that you saw is not, and is about to come up out of the abyss and go to destruction. I think some of you remember when we were talking about this a few months ago. And those who dwell on the earth, those are the ones in the flesh, will wonder, whose name has not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they see the beast, that he was, is not, and will come. Who was, is not, and will come. Interesting wording. Interesting, phraseology. Does that remind any of you of something else? Katie, what does it remind you of?
In the song where it says he was and is to come,
Yeah,
in that, the Kadosh song.
and who is that?
Yahweh,
Yeah, well, it's a word, it's Yeshua.
Yeshua.
You can go all the way back to chapter 1 of Revelation and you will see that. The one who is, the one who was, and the one who is to come. The word of Yahuwah declares that. This is me. It's the very same one that declared to Moses, the one who is, the one who, what?
No, this is talking about the beast. Chapter 8, right? 17:8?
Yes. That's what I was asking. Same thing.
7 and 8. Yeah, it's talking about the beast.
He asked the question, what does it remind you of? So what he's pointing out is 7 and 8 are a counterfeit.
Thank you. I'm just thinking of that word. This is a counterfeit to what has already been presented to the children of Israel, to us. It's not something, it's not someone that's going to come out from the blue and just go, here I am. It has to follow a pattern. It has to follow the way the Father has set it up. Because the purpose of the beast is to deceive the children of Israel. The woman it's talking about prior that it's about the children of Israel. That's what it's talking about. And they will be protected and they will be hidden from this very one. But not all of them are going to be hidden or protected. That's the whole point of understanding whose name is written in the book and whose name is not written in the book.
It ties right in with his sheep hearing his voice.
Okay, thank you. Going back to Matthew, it does. It plays right
Back
into
to
this.
all the way back to Ezekiel. It starts in Ezekiel 34. John 10 talks about the sheep hearing his voice and following him. They won't follow the voice that's not his, but the counterfeit is deceiving many that don't.
Right, have ears to hear, exactly. All right. This all sets up the beginning of the millennial kingdom. This all is established there. Then the millennial kingdom is overcome. Because what happens to the beast, or what happens to Hasatan?
He's thrown
At the
into
end?
the pit.
Not at the end,
Oh,
at the beginning of the millennial
he's bound
kingdom.
and he's bound for
All right.
1,000 years.
That's why we did the parable about the wedding feast. And the one that was in there didn't have the right garments on. All right. So, when was, again, my question is, because I'm going to keep harping on this, when was this established?
At the foundation of the earth.
Exactly. Very good, John. From the beginning, it was already set. This is what's going to happen. All right. So, now, go through the kingdom. And we were talking a little bit about this morning. So, after the kingdom, then there's a great battle that takes place. Hasatan is released. And everyone that is alive in the flesh at that time, now they have to make a decision on who to follow. Now I always thought, 'cause it's like, all right, he's in the garden, he deceives the woman, they are put out of the garden. Why not deal with Hasatan at that time? Why not just get rid of it and let everybody live peaceful lives all the way through?
Exactly.
That wasn't his plan. That wasn't his plan. All right? So Noah comes along, why didn't he just flood him out? Why didn't, just flood all the spirits out? The spirits don't die. So then Yeshua comes on the earth, the word of Yahuwah comes on the earth, and he's tested by Hasatan. But who takes him out there to be tested by Hasatan?
The Spirit.
The Spirit of Yahuwah takes him out there. Interesting. Why not deal with him right then? Get behind me, Satan, which he did say.
But it wasn't time yet.
Oh, it wasn't time yet. So he's bound for 1,000 years. This is me thinking, why don't you deal with him then? Get it all over with. Because it's not time. Now he's got to be released to go about deceiving those who were on the earth at that time. All right? That's the plan. Yes.
I brought this up before, but I'll bring it up again. In Revelation 9, verse 15, those 4 angels,
That are holding back
yep,
the wind?
who
Yeah.
had been prepared for the hour, the day, and the month, and the year. That date, and month, and year, and hour, and day was already set from
Yep.
the beginning.
Already established.
Already established, and all this stuff had to happen to get to that point for it to take place.
Right. Thank you, John.
Mhm.
So I think, just to kind of piggyback off of what John just said, I think we have enough scriptures to validate what I'm presenting to you. Okay? So those who are on the outside, those living souls that are on the outside of the kingdom, they're being deceived or brought into deception by Hasatan, by the one who is released. And it mainly deals with unbelief. And when I was going through this, and like I said, last night, it was like, man, I had all sorts of stuff going on in my head. I said, boy, children of Israel, even though it was 40 years they were in the wilderness, Yahuwah was with them. He did miracles. He gave them food that they didn't have to go out, or go kill something or whatever, or even go to this, but they still had to go out and pick it up. They still had to deal with it. They still had to cook it. 101 ways to cook manna type of stuff. They saw the water coming out of the rock. They saw how he covered them when they had to do battle. They saw the fire. They saw the cloud of smoke. But they still did not believe.
That's why it took him so long.
Yeah, that's why it took them so long. And even some of the teachings is, he shortened that time when they were in the wilderness. And that's why Yeshua himself even says, if that time was not, that meaning the Great Tribulation or Jacob's trouble, if that time is not cut short, everybody be wiped out. But the point of his is not to wipe everybody out. As the kingdom is, when talking about the kingdom, the wedding feast, he has to reveal himself to the world, to the flesh. I am Yahuwah. And at that time, I believe that's when every knee will bow, every tongue will confess. Absolutely. But then, 1,000 years later, it's like, yeah. Now remember, during those 1,000 years, does anybody else believe that there's going to be babies born and children growing up and so forth and so on?
It should.
Yeah. See, I believe that. So you're going to have those, just like with the children of Israel, that are going to come into this belief, knowing who Yahuwah is, knowing that he has conditions that you're to live under and you're to perform. It's like, I don't want to do that. Too hard. I'm busy. I need to wax my car. Or at that time, I need to wax my spaceship. I need to wax my wings.
David,
Yes, sir.
remember you said the chosen ones were entered in the kingdom, and then the other ones that are not chosen ones, what happened to them? Is it possible that those that are not in the kingdom yet will be in that same period being, how say?
Okay, so you're, see, what I'm hearing you say, John, is you're breaking up the chosen ones into two different groups. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Because you're using the terminology chosen.
Yeah, we said earlier the chosen ones were automatically going in the kingdom. And you said, well, what happened to the ones that are not entering the kingdom?
Okay, that's what this is about.
Yeah, and so these guys are still waiting there in the wings, if you will, in the 1000 millennium, right? So are they going to be re-educated, if you will?
Well, see, that's actually, as you bring that up, that's a belief. You know, the belief is those that are left outside will have an opportunity to come into the kingdom. And I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and I go, and I said, wait a minute, I can't find that. I can't find that.
But what you can find is us being told to go out and teach them and rule with the rod of iron.
Exactly. See, we see that. Those who come into the kingdom that are chosen, the door is shut. Does that bring up anything to anybody? The door is shut. You can't come up to the door. Let me in, let me in. I did, you know, I raised the dead. Yeah. I never knew you. I don't recognize you. Once the door, when the door is open, the door is open. Once the door is shut, it is shut. I can take you to a Revelation passage about that. I can take you to an Isaiah passage about that.
That would make 3, wouldn't it?
Well, even more than that. There's more than, but the purpose is, and the understanding is, as I brought up, I said, okay, those who are not chosen, they may have been called, but they weren't chosen to go into the kingdom. What happens to those? That was behind that question. What happens to those?
That are left behind the door?
No, they're outside the door.
Outside the door?
Yeah. What happens to them?
Well, they're supposed to get more oil of their own, right?
No. Remember, once the door is closed, it's not going to be opened up again. It'll never be opened up again in this cycle.
They gotta wait 1,000 years. No?
The door still won't be opened up even after 1,000 years.
You mean they're condemned then, at this point?
Oh, that's the belief. They're condemned. Scripture doesn't back that up though. Okay. This is where I'm going to. So we already talked about the end of the millennial kingdom. Now I want to go to. Let's go to, since we're in Revelation, let's just stay there. Let's go to chapter 20. Chapter 20 of Revelation. Well, let me, because we've already covered some of this. Well, let's do at the time of the beginning of the millennial kingdom. So let's go to verse 4. Chapter 20, verse 4 of Revelation. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of the testimony of Yeshua, and because of the word of Yahuwah. And those who had not worshipped the beast or his image. Now remember, those who do not worship the beast or his image, their names, and it'll say it, were found in the book of life. Remember that the ones who worship the beast in the image, their names were not found in the book of life. And had not received the mark upon their forehead or upon their hand, and they came to life and reigned with Yeshua for 1,000 years. That's what John was saying. We're going to rule and reign with Yeshua, with the word of Yahuwah for 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were completed. So, this, meaning what we just read prior, this is the first resurrection. That's the first resurrection. That's going into the kingdom. The first resurrection is going into the kingdom. And this is where the blessing comes in. Verse 6. Blessed and holy, or set apart, is the one who has a part in the first resurrection. Over these the second death has no power. However, they will be priests of Yahuwah and of Mashiach, and will reign with him for 1,000 years. Again, just reinforcing that we're going to be ruling and reigning with him. Okay?
7.
5 gets a little confusing, but verse 5 gets a little confusing. And then, as you go on from 7 on to 10, then that talks about what we've already talked about. Satan is released to deceive the nations, to deceive the people. And then after that, verse 11, here we go. What happens to those who were left, who were outside the kingdom, who were in flesh bodies? And I saw a great white throne, and him who sat upon it, from whose presence earth and heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. Okay, somebody give me your understanding of what I just read about earth and heaven.
I mean, heaven and earth going to oblivion. It's gone. It evaporates.
So to speak, yeah.
Yeah.
From who?
From the face of Yah.
Yeah. And there was no place found. So here we have the end of the cycle of the earth and heaven cycle. That's end. It's done. So when that happens, now these people are judged. Those who are left, they're resurrected. But they're not resurrected into flesh and blood. They're resurrected into spirit beings. And I saw the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne, and books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged from things which were written in the books according to their deeds or their works. Mm-hmm. There were a multitude of books, and it's dealing with the deeds and the works of these people. But those who went into the kingdom, there's no mention about their works.
Because they're already saved, right?
Yeah, they're already there. They've been judged and determined and deemed righteous. If you're righteous, you come into the kingdom at the beginning. Not at the end or not during, like some people believe, at the very beginning of 1,000 years. That's all by the choice of Yahuwah. Okay, I got to make that clear. All right, verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every one according to their deeds. Now, if you remember last year's teaching, what I said about death and Hades, because it's going to, verse 14, it says, and death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire.
But it doesn't say what happened to the people that after he opened the book, right?
Yes,
and
it does.
he was judged.
Yes, it does.
Is they going in the lake of fire too?
We'll see this here in just a minute. But I want us to understand death and Hades. Why death and Hades first into the lake of fire? Number one, it wasn't necessary anymore. Because flesh was not dying. There was no flesh here. Hades is just the pit that the body goes into. There's no need for that. If there's no death, there's no need for a pit. There's no need for a pit because there's no earth or no heaven.
Yeah.
Kind of follow what's coming across here?
Yeah.
It's done, it's over, this time is done, it's finished. Now we have to send these individuals, somewhere, they have to go somewhere. So let me read verse 15. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was cast into the lake of fire.
Oh.
He was cast into the lake of fire.
Yeah, so if the earth is not there and heaven no more, so where is this lake of fire then? Right?
What do you think? Where do you think the lake of fire is?
I guess,
It exists in the spiritual realm.
yeah.
And I think we read other scriptures, that said they were tormented for eternity.
Mm-hmm.
And eternity is you don't know where the beginning is, you don't know where the end is. So now I come to this. Come to the cycles. And if you notice, I have a future one here, then I have a present one, and I have a future. Well, I have a past, present, and future. The past is past. Now we're into our time. That's the present. And what's going to come after that? This is the time period we're talking about. When we come into that, that's going to be the next cycle. Because my mind wrestled with where do those go whose names are still in the book of life?
Mm-hmm.
It just says those whose names were not found. Basically what it is, those whose names were blotted out. Their name was there in the beginning of the cycle. But now something took place, something happened, they did, their deeds were whatever, and the Father blotted them out. If you're blotted out, you can't be found. Therefore your name cannot be found in the book. But what happens to those whose names were found in the book of life? That's been my dilemma for years.
They go into the kingdom.
Huh?
They go into the kingdom.
No, they don't. They don't go into the kingdom. Now I'm just saying that.
So the ones who are found in the book of life?
Yeah, if they're found in the book of life. I grew up in this not in this Hebraic understanding. I grew up in the Greek understanding. And in order for my name to be in the book of life, I had to accept Jesus. I had to accept who he was. As the pastors, said, Billy Graham said, accept Jesus and your name will be written in the Lamb's book of life. And I accepted that. And then something happened. I read the Bible. And I didn't find that. I found that my name was already written in the Lamb's book of life. Wow, interesting. So I had to, that really kind of, we've talked about it, it's blowing my mind. It's like, okay, now, how do I understand this? My name's already written there. And I think I gave you enough scriptures to back that up. I can go back to Moses. Moses even knew his name was in the book of life. Because when he was talking to Yahuwah, and, Yahuwah said, I'm going to kill these people off. They shattered the tablets. I'm done with them. And Moses says to him, if you don't go with us, take me out of your book. Blot me out of your book. The technical term is blot me out of your book. Did Moses know about a book of life? Could the tree of life represent a scroll, a book? The tree of life that was in the garden. We talked about that this morning. Just something to think about.
Each leaf a name.
Huh?
Each leaf a name.
Yep. All I have here in the present is basically, they're down here on the bottom. The majority of them are the feast times. Trying to describe the cycle that takes place. Just about what I just went through. The last 40 minutes. This still doesn't answer the question,
Where
do those whose names are written in the book, but didn't get into the kingdom at the beginning of the millennium, where do they go? I was in the past cycle. How do I know that? Come on, David. How do you know that? And I presented this to a few leaders, a few pastors years ago. And it's like,
Oh, they get recycled.
huh?
They get recycled.
They get recycled, so to speak. So to speak. But I go, man, I've seen this place. I've been here. I've heard these words. I've spoke these words. But I don't know when that was. Oh, deja vu. Deja vu. Now, has anybody in this room not had deja vu?
Eli wants to know.
Well, he doesn't. Yeah.
He just asked me what it means.
He what?
He just asked me, what does deja vu mean?
What'd you tell him?
I just said it out.
Something that comes to your mind or your vision or your hearing
Or smell.
or a smell or whatever you touch or whatever is something that happened to you before, but you can't pinpoint when that was. That probably did not help at all. So, if everybody in here has had a deja vu moment, I firmly believe we were in a prior cycle, but we don't know how many cycles we've been in. Remember, eternity, you don't know where it begins, you don't know where it ends. What was interesting is I was talking about this with my family in June, with my granddaughters and daughter. My daughter, I've never had a deja vu moment. I said, hallelujah, sweetheart. This is your first time through. Now, here's what you need to do. You need to believe. See, if your name is in the book of life, at some point, if your flesh gives into the Spirit of Yahuwah, into the Word, you will be chosen to be in the kingdom. Every one of these cycles has a beginning and an end. And I could only fit 3 on this page. Because I had to come to the realization in my own mind, if it's not like this, what we're living in right now can go on forever. And if the kingdom doesn't come to this earth, then somebody's a liar. And if Hasatan is not thrown in the lake of fire, somebody's a liar. Remember what I read out of Isaiah? What I said in verse 11, what I have said, it will bring about, and what I have planned, that I will do. Now, I have to hesitate and I have to be careful. All I can go by is my own experience, what I've gleaned, and basically all I've presented to you is what leads us up to the kingdom. We have a few scriptures here and there that tells us, what it's going to be like in the kingdom. But what the Father, what Yeshua did, he came, his mission, his calling, his message was about the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's coming. And the parables are all about how do you prepare yourself to enter into the kingdom. See, Matthew 5, the Beatitudes. Matthew 5. Again, this is so common to us. And his disciples, it's just, he was just his disciples were there. Am I right, John? I think just his disciples were there. So there were just a few in number, but nonetheless, there's many disciples that since we have the written word, i.e. you're a disciple, now you are hearing and you are reading what was told to those 12. Just verse 3. Just start with verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So how do we prepare ourselves? How do we begin to prepare ourselves for the kingdom? Understand what it means to be poor in spirit. And then do that. See, I put it, when I did this years ago, I put at the top of my heading, Guidelines to the Kingdom of Heaven. These are the works. These are the good works. These are the works that Yeshua said to the disciples and the people that were there. Who are my brethren?
Matthew 5:3.
Who's my mother? The ones who do the will of my Father. The one who does the works.
David.
Yes.
It ties back to Micah 6:8. He has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does Yah require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your Elohim?
Right. Not haughty,
Nope,
not lifted up.
not a lot of your spirit.
Yeah. Just
Or-
exactly what you were talking about
Or
last
your
night.
spirit, exactly, yep.
Down to verse 10.
Blessed are
Well,
they.
huh?
No, I'm just,
Well, we could go through the whole thing. I'm just kind of picking something out here. Verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see. And I'm going to put this in there. The face of Yahuwah. Because we
Yeah.
read that this morning.
Mm-hmm.
They shall see the face of Yahuwah. You have to get into the kingdom if you want to see the face of Yahuwah. Blessed are those, verse 10, blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So if you're not convinced that this is talking about or giving you instruction on how to be prepared for the kingdom of heaven, then I pray that you read it and read it and read it and read it. And even do like what John did. Go look for other scriptures that would back up what Yeshua is saying and what Matthew is recording.
Well, wait, verse 10, does that mean we can be doing what he wants us to do and still have a hard time and be persecuted and, but we're obeying him, we're doing what he says?
What do you think, John?
I think that we have books that have been written about people that were doing what, well, let's start with Yeshua. All he did was what Abba said to do,
Right.
and he was crucified, beaten, whipped, and,
Spit upon.
yep. So his people go through difficulties just like everybody
Right.
else. In fact, we talked about that Matthew 7 passage with the wise and the foolish people. The wise built their houses upon the rocks. But guess what? If you look closely at every one of those storms, it's the same storm for the wise and the foolish.
Right. And that's the way it's going to be in the Jacob's trouble, in the tribulation. And see, now we have a master plan. But are we going to adhere to it? Are we going to believe in it? Are we going to act it out? Like I said earlier, this is my theory. But the words I want to hear when I walk through that door,
Well done.
well done, good and faithful servant. I want to hear that. Then I will be as bright and as luminous and transparent as Yahuwah himself. And I will see his face. All right, any other questions, any other thoughts?
yes, I do.
Well, of course,
You said earlier, and we read it, the heaven and earth will go into oblivion, no more.
yeah.
But some of the scripture says a new heaven and a new earth will come down. Right? So could it be that then these guys that we're talking about will be permitted to go in the new earth?
Okay, here's what I'm going to instruct you here. Read chapter 21.
Yeah, the first sentence right here.
21 or what?
Read 21, but read it in a sequence and see what that tells you. Read chapter 21 in a sequence from verse 1 to verse 2 to verse 3, verse 4, verse 5.
Revelation?
Revelation 21. Read that in a sequence and see what it says to you.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I just thought new earth. If we don't need it, then why the new earth, right?
Because
Okay.
you look at it in sequence and you follow through. And if you remember what we've been talking about, you should be able to understand.
Okay,
All right.
so are you saying we have to do all this over and over again if we're in the book of life?
Okay, I thank you, Nicole. Am I saying that we have to do it over and over and over again? It depends. See, if you're called but not chosen, I firmly believe that you're probably gonna go into the next cycle.
Oh, okay. If you're called but not chosen.
Yes.
But if you're chosen, then you don't have to do this over and over and
No.
over and over again. Oh,
Then you're in and that's it, no more.
Thank goodness.
But like I said earlier, I don't know if if I only been through one cycle, or 2, or 20, or 100,000 of them.
Because you had deja vu, so you're saying, oh man, I didn't get it right?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
Because usually the deja vu moments for me were, beware, watch out, understand this, know this. You wanna know where dreams and visions come from? Deja vu moments.
So weird and random.
Well, not all dreams and visions,
No, I believe it.
but
About my deja vu.
the
you know,
ones,
like,
the ones
this
that,
happened.
the ones that stick with you. Thank you. Anyone else? For good discussion. Blessings upon you. Thank you for being here. May Yahuwah bless you and be careful when you drive home. Amen.
Amen.